All right, welcome to the last of the micro lectures for Chapter 2. These are just kind of little sidetracks I think are important. I include this because we had talked earlier about ethnocentrism and chronocentrism. We talked about theory, and I think the Portuguese experiment, which we're going to refer to in a minute, is a nice illustration of many of these concepts. So what are we talking about here? Well, in 1999, Portugal had a major problem, like most countries, with illegal drugs. It had one of the highest HIV infection rates in all of Western Europe, all of the EU. People who used drugs called drogados or junkies were despised. And then a doctor and a judge, and I won't pretend to be able to pronounce the Portuguese names there, really decided to take a dramatically different approach to dealing with crime. And I want to emphasize that what we're talking about here is decriminalization to civil offense, not legalization. So what happened? Well, in 2001, drugs were decriminalized. Now I want to emphasize again, drug users, possession by drug users was decriminalized. Traffickers, drug dealers were still and are still criminally prosecuted in Portugal. So what happened was special committees were set up, and if someone was caught in the possession of drugs, the committee had the right to fine them, to limit their travel, to require them to report regularly to the committee to see if they're dealing with these issues. They could withdraw the right to own firearms. They could even suspend public aid payments. What they did is they used these civil penalties, not a criminal charge, to get people to enter into drug treatment. And if you would do that, most of the penalties were waived. So it was like you were being sued as opposed to like you were being arrested. Okay, so what's the impact? Well, the obvious greatest impact, the most successful thing, was HIV and death from drug use. So a little bit outside the criminal justice system except for the damage that was done. HIV and hepatitis C rates fell dramatically, depending upon how you measure it, and there's a number of statistics you can measure here, by 90% in some cases. Also, drug deaths fell. And these would be things like overdose. So Portugal was running about 121, and today it's running about 20 people. Now obviously Portugal's got a very low population, but if we compare it statistically, that's about a sixth of the rate of other European countries and far lower, almost a tenth of the rate that you see in the United States from drug deaths. Now, what about usage rates? Did more people start using drugs? Now that kind of is a question of which drugs are we talking about and when. We think that the rates might have gone up, then back down, then stabilized. So you did not see a dramatic decrease, but you did not see an explosion. Crime rates, we saw a spike, but then we've seen a decline. So overall, it seems a fairly positive mix with some drawbacks. Here's the final chart I'll leave you with, and the reason I'm including this is one of the last chapters we'll look at. We're going to talk about Portugal again. I just kind of wanted to whet your interest in it. So if you'll look, overdose deaths in 1999, 369 down to 30 today. New HIV diagnosis, 900 down to 18. Number of people incarcerated for drug offenses, 3,800 down to 1,100. So dropping by 2/3. All right, well, keep some of these things in mind. Think about what they might mean for American policy, whether it's a good or bad idea. Also, go out and find some of the factual information about this. It's not the rosiest picture that some people might want to sell you, nor is it the disaster that others would argue. All right, that's the last lecture. I tried to keep this one short since we had 4 in this chapter.